Okay, and we're live. Yes. Be mute. That sounds like good sound. Okay, here we go. Yes, as everybody files in, we're going to start off with an update on the Nancy Guthrie story. And then we're going to touch on, there we go. Still sounds like I have a lisp. A lisp. Here we go. All right. Today is day 60. Day 60. Yep. And it's a new month. Welcome to April. Good afternoon, everybody. There we go. There's all our comments. Hi there, Brenda. There we go. Good afternoon, Janet Dwyer. So we're going to be in the routine, I believe, of probably starting each day, weekday around this time, 12:30, and then we'll go until 2 o'clock. Sometimes we may go past 2 o'clock, or other times we'll end at 2. Sometimes we'll start at noon, but it will be, and I think the audio is good. Yes, the audio is exceptionally strong on this day 60. And it, as I said, we are going to talk about the mural. Just talking about that. I think I have a solution for it. And we'll talk a little bit about that. I might as well start, folks. Again, if you're on Facebook, you can share that you're watching. Thank you, everyone, as we continue our growth on YouTube. To me, those are still, hi there, Kara. I did send Kara an invite. So all she has to do is accept that. We are going to talk about the mural. We are going to talk about the mural. So it's not just going to be one thing. We'll talk about the mural as well, but I do want to start off the latest on, hi there, Charlene, on Nancy Guthrie. So I think this is interesting. And each day, although I am back here on the East Coast, who knows? We shall see. If there is news, I may return to Tucson. I don't know. It is nice to be home. It is nice to see friends and family, of which I saw yesterday and obviously. And let me just, okay. And let me tell you the latest. So there's someone who I like a lot regarding the Nancy Guthrie story. And as far as the investigation, um, and I also want to clarify, for instance, I'm not big on some people were, someone in particular was just sending me, here are some people that I found on Facebook. Go investigate them. I don't know what you're talking about. As I've explained, I follow the police, much like when I was out there. And there were some people, they come in from all over and they're like, I'm going to go search. And I think there is somebody out there who's like, to me, again, everyone does their own thing, but you want to talk about needle in a haystack. I mean, I don't know what the 1,000,000,000 to 1 chances are that you would actually find anything. I don't find that a great use of time. But where we are right now is I like the reporting of Brian Entin of News Nation. And there is a disagreement right now, whether people like it or not. But Ashley Banfield, who I think, um, lack of a better phrase, I think she's lost her fastball. Notice she had a show on News Nation. She no longer has a show on News Nation. I think we know why. But Brian Entin is reporting and reported yesterday that there was no blood found in the home. Now, Ashley Banfield last week was saying her sources tell her there was a lot of blood inside. Now, I saw someone trying to defend her saying, well, she said it was on the inside of the door. Well, that would still be inside the house. So I think, and you can put in the comments, if this is a choice, so some people don't like choices. To me, this is decision time. Somebody's wrong. Somebody's wrong. I think Ashley Banfield is wrong. she's been wrong in a number of different things. There are some people that just put stuff out there. I get that. There are some people that believe it should be like anything goes. And I think the best example of that was when I could hear someone saying that they thought that that was okay. Let me just oh, okay. Hold on, I'm just straightening something out. Isn't that okay? I'm not exactly sure, but anyhow, but somebody's right and somebody's wrong. If you look at the Ashley Banfield situation, the kind of what the sheriff had said kind of goes to the fact that maybe there was blood, because he said in his latest interview that as soon as they arrived and what they saw in the house, that they realized they needed to bring the FBI in. And so it is odd that you have, you know, the sheriff saying that. I want to come back to, the timeline that had been established. Excuse me. There it is. This timeline remains. That traveled to the family home, drops her off. Brian Ensign did a good interview on his YouTube channel where he's saying and talking to someone, they think there was someone already in the house when she got home. I agree. I think it's odd. Brian Enton's latest video. I like Brian. I think he's solid. He's been on the ground. Ashley Banfield has not been on the ground. I think, we heard doors were propped open at the house. What I think is interesting about that is in the back that there was like a screen door on a door. So it's possible that when they said doors, Savannah said doors were propped open, that what she was referring to was basically like two doors, the screen in front and then the main door. So, but people think like two different entrances and propped open. What does that mean? A flower pot inside. I thought his latest interview of this Debbie, who's done such a great job. You can. I mean, to me, if people want to rehash over mistakes that were made, there were mistakes made. The sheriff, they were not. To me, they were just not prepared for with what happened here. I mean, they were there were just so many mistakes seemingly that were made. And this whole business of bring her home. Savannah, I believe, is going to be back on the Today Show. I think starting on Monday. They said after Easter. So it could be Monday. Monday is Easter Monday. Could be Tuesday. Could be sometime next week. Or maybe she realizes that she can't go through with it. I don't know. I thought Nancy Grace did a good interview where she was saying, Nancy Grace was saying, there's no playbook for that. And I get that. And you want to be sympathetic, but at the same time, as I've mentioned, people have invested a tremendous amount of time in this story, and it would be nice to get some consistency with what exactly happened here. So somebody's wrong. Ashley Banfield also said, the sister and the brother-in-law were suspects. I went back and really listened to the way she worded that. And she left herself enough wiggle room. Like there won't be a lawsuit or anything like that. And the fact of the matter is, as we've kind of touched on, it is a fact that whoever's the last person with the person is then considered a suspect, whether it's Brian Walsh or whether it's, Lacey Peterson and Scott Peterson, or Karen Reed was the last person with her boyfriend, Boston Officer John O'Keefe. Charlotte Lester, the last person with her was Mark Perkins. When you had the Kylie Montero situation last August in Rehoboth, the last person with her was her father of a child, ex-boyfriend Greg Groom. So many times that is the case. And then, as I've also touched on, that Saturday night, boy, the police were very aggressive at the home of Annie and Tommaso. So I think I'm curious to see what Brian Enton can come out with, I should say, this week. Newsnation sent him back. He definitely is trying to gain some traction, add something to the story. We've seen no developments from the sheriff's office. Right now, and I still see people trying to hash out of when Savannah said that she believed two of the ransom notes were real. I want to remind people that there were ransom notes that TMZ received, but there were also ransom notes that they may have received that they never made public. So I think that's difficult to get a handle on. When Savannah said, the videos that she did were geared towards um, two of the ransom notes. I think it's unless we don't know everything. There's so much, and I want to caution people. There's still so much about this case that we don't know, and there are contradictions of how did they come up with the whole business of she was grabbed out of her bed, as the sheriff had said, and then the sheriff went back and said, people, I'm not used to people hanging on every every word, um, which is it's not your imagination. That's an odd thing to say. While I was out there and communicating with them a lot, I was asking them. I thought they needed to, and I thought they could update the timeline, and they chose, they chose not to do that. This timeline was released on the Thursday of the first week, and it still goes back to doorbell camera disconnects, software detects person on camera, no video available, no subscription. Well, we've learned that there is an image, as they put that out, the whole thing business of the pacemaker, and then when the family went to check on her, the sheriff, if people want to keep rehashing over mistakes that the sheriff made, I mean, you can do that. Nothing's going to change that. He obviously made a lot of mistakes. I view it as, some people view it as corruption. I view it just more as I've kind of talked about. I just think there's a casual nature to the sheriff. I think after spending almost 8 weeks in Tucson, I think there's a casual nature to the way Tucson operates. There's only two TV stations. The Tucson newspaper played no role in this in any way. And then the sheriff resorted to basically talking to two TV stations. I've talked about when they did the big Saturday night interview and the Guthrie family issued a statement, and they keep going back to January 11th. And the reporter from the TV station she's sitting there in a T-shirt, even though then that video is going to be shown on NBC. NBC has access to him. That's really the only person that he talks to. So I think I found Tucson casual. When talking to a neighbor in the Catalina foothills, they were saying the nicest restaurant in that area they believe to be Fleming's Steakhouse. And one neighbor said to me, and the people still, they show up there in pajamas. Like, Tucson's casual, the sheriff's casual, the media's casual. The media wasn't out there all the time. The national media was out there seemingly more than them. So as far as where things sit, I think the fact that maybe information starts to dribs and drabs coming out a little bit, that's how this case could work. I want to caution people. I still get messages from people saying, they still leave hope that Nancy is alive. Uh, um, the family doesn't seem to think that. I don't want to drill down on some of the things that Savannah said in that interview. I agree with Nancy Grace. Nancy Grace did an interview saying that she thinks that there's no playbook for this. I thought it was somewhat fair criticism the way NBC kind of rolled this out into three parts. I know a lot of people are criticizing Hoda, but I believe, on this day 60, that if there was a window of time to solve this right away, I believe that I think that window has closed. I think it is. Clearly, it is closed. the behavior of the sheriff can't be underestimated, because with this amount of time, whoever was involved, they've had ample opportunity to get rid of things, make sure things are nailed down, lay low. And if you were the people that were involved with the abduction of Nancy Guthrie, it's not your imagination. The whole story is odd. The whole nature of this whole story is very, very unusual. And as I have said in the past, it does seem that someone locally came upon the idea. Maybe it was off that the Today Show at that local restaurant back in November. Maybe it was someone that thought, "Oh wow, these people have money, and these people are local, and that lady lives. We've learned she lives alone, and she's 84, with no dog, no alarm, no outside lights, and no security camera." In a very desolate section of her street in the middle of there with no streetlights. And I know some people still don't appreciate that, but it makes a huge difference when you have streetlights. Because when I have been out there, and I have been, going to be on national television before the sun comes up, I am telling you, you cannot see 10 feet ahead of you. You cannot see 10 feet in front of you. It's not just dark, it's pitch black. So a car could be sitting right there and no one would see it. So we will each day. I'm gonna obviously, I'm telling you, I'm gonna stay on the story. It's still an important story, obviously, and I'm anxious, like everyone else, to see. But my method is I follow where the police are. That's worked for me. You go where the police are. They have the information, and they are still. It is mind-boggling. They're still stuck. They're still stuck on the fact that they can't figure out how they get out of there. So all this business of their clowns and look, the amateur hour and everything else of the guy with the mask, yet here it is 60 days later, and 60 days later, and they can't figure out who that is. And whoever he was with, boy, right now everyone's keeping their mouth shut. Now, folks, I want to remind you, I want to welcome back a very cherished sponsor, and that is Corey and Steve with Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. You can call them 401 932 3156. And so many people took advantage of this to epoxy your garage or maybe a patio or a basement. Decorative concrete epoxy floors with quality. 401 932 3156. Garages, basements, patios. It's easier to clean, makes a huge difference in your garage. A lot of people, if you have your garage floor epoxy, it's not a huge job. It's not like wildly expensive, but it makes more sense. You could use it for more things. I was speaking to someone lives in North Smithfield. He had his garage floor epoxied, and now he uses that as a home office because it's so terrific. Competitive pricing. They are customer service and focus, quality, satisfaction. You can call or text them. It's Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. And call them today at 401 932 3156. Or maybe your parking lot took a real beating this past winter. Commercial parking lot, seal coating improves the look of your parking lot. So many people took a beating with as far as with all the plows and so forth. And it makes a big difference. If you're pulling into a lot and, it has seen better days, it is kind of a reflection, as I think of it, it actually is a reflection on your business. But they can do parking lot crack sealing, keeps the asphalt safe. They do repairs, keep your parking lot looking safe, great, fresh, crisp line, striping. Parking lot seal coating enhances the appearance of it. And that is the first thing that your customers will see. Call Corey now at Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. He and Steve, 401 932 3156. 401 932 3156. Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. It makes a huge difference. Call them 401 932 3156. Decorative concrete. Have them epoxy your garage floor. Makes a huge difference. Or patio or your basement. Call them 401, free estimate, 401 932 3156. Now, coming up, we are going to talk about the mural. Before we, and we're going to talk to Vic Mellor about this. For whatever reason, I will revisit in the next hour the Nancy Guthrie story, but for whatever reason, the media is allowing the governor and Congressman Seth Magaziner to get a free pass on not commenting on the mural. I know there's some different angles of it. For whatever reason, some people are confused. Maybe they're not sure about what's going on. I also, this is my opinion. This whole business about a petition, to me, and even trying to relocate it, I think there is a solution here. I think the person who could solve this is going to join us coming up in just a couple moments. But you got to realize the building size that is needed is a very large building. And by the way, where it was going to be and still is up in Providence, it is in a parking lot. But for those that want to start a petition, and someone was saying to me, yesterday that they should sue and this other stuff, but you have to realize that it's the owner. Granted, I fully get it. The mayor had no business jumping on that. David Morales, who's running for mayor, has also said, it doesn't reflect our values and it would make people unsafe. But what I think, I like to do things constructive. I think there is a solution here. But number one, you have to realize business owners have to do business. So if you're in Providence, is it possible that some business owner in Providence would step forward and say, sure, put that mural here? But the problem for that business owner is then you have to deal with the Providence City Council and you have to deal with City Hall. It's difficult enough doing business in the city of Providence, let alone if then, now you're giving them a reason to give you a hard time. It is not easy to do business. I go back to the Columbus statue. You had the statue of Christopher Columbus, and it kept getting vandalized right there at the intersection of Reservoir and Elmwood, to the point where they forced them to take it down. And so it went into storage, and then some people stepped forward, and now it is in Johnston. This is a little bit different because of the sheer size of it. I know some people talked about maybe we could, and what that is, okay, is there a business in Cranston? I mean, I know of someone that has a business in Cranston. And the only problem is, what's the point? It's in the back of his building and no one would see it. It's literally just his parking lot for 10 employees. And he said, I'm thinking I might do it. And okay, but that's, to me, that's like putting a painting in an attic, in a attic with the light shut off. So it is a problem. Should the mayor have reacted and said, yes, it should? No, of course not. Of course the mayor shouldn't have said that. Is it total overreach? Complete overreach. But what people are missing is the owners of that building that own the Dark Lady, they don't want to have it up anymore. So as far as someone said to me, they should legally challenge it. Well, legally challenge it, you have to have standing. And the business owner no longer wants it up there. I understand. And the person that commissioned it, he did a good job and he wants to move it and so forth. I think there is a solution out there, but you can't ignore it. If you're a business owner right now in Providence, it would be pretty extraordinary for a business owner to say, yes, you can use my building and I'll allow it. But what you have to recognize is the owners of that building that own the Dark Lady, which is a gay club in Providence, and it's right down the street from Trinity Rep, and it is literally around the corner from the bar Clementine's that former Congressman David Cicilline owns. I'm telling you right now, they do not want it. So these people that are calling for a petition and you're going to sue, they no longer want it. They want to step back. So I love the mural. Yeah, I love the whole element of that. And of course it's wrong, but Smiley, the mayor of Providence, he's taking the beating. What people need to understand is the city council is worse. The city council, they're the ones that want to defund the police. The city council, they don't want ICE. Mayor Smiley is a moderate compared to the Providence City Council. The Providence City Council, they would allow all the anti-Semitic protests and everything else. So, even if Mayor Smiley said, yes, I think that business owner has a right, I'm telling you, the city council would overrule him. The city council in Providence is 1,000 times worse. They are the problem in Providence. So who would put it up? I don't know. You would need a large building, but you also need a large building to me that is visible. I mean, it does look nice. And I went yesterday and filmed and took a photo of it, and I'll show that. But you also have to understand it is overlooking into a parking lot. And it's right off, like it's not in a prominent display. It's not like along the highway. It's nothing like that. It is in a parking lot on the back of a building that houses a gay club around the corner from Trinity Rep, and the people around there don't want it. So again, I don't stop people. People want to do a petition, but who are you petitioning? Because the guy that owns the men or people that own the building, they no longer want it on the building. Now, I think this is another example that people need and want and demand leadership and people that will speak out about something like this. ICE under attack. Many people don't speak out about it. I'll tell you who is still not even speaking out on the mural is Governor McKee and Congressman Seth Magaziner. And Congressman Seth Magaziner, to me, he gets to skate on a lot of things. For instance, they've picked up on the fact that the Congressman Seth Magaziner is saying he's going to go to a Real Housewives of Rhode Island viewing party tomorrow night, Thursday night when it debuts. But what they're missing is he's not even going to be able to watch it. He's not watching it in his own district because he doesn't even live in the district. Now, there are options, but I think something like the mural, that is an example to me where people do want leadership and people will step forward. And there are options for that. And someone who is willing to step forward and someone who is willing to get in the trenches with a lot of what we would consider some of these. These are issues. And to me, things like the mural, I assure you, someone like Congressman Seth Magaziner who doesn't want to deal with it because these are cultural issues and these are things that he doesn't want anything to do. But someone who is willing to step up, he's running for Congress. He wants to challenge Seth Magaziner. And he joins us right now, and it is Vic Mellor. Vic, I want to first give you the floor and talk about this whole controversy regarding the mural.
Hey, John, thanks for having me. Yeah, the mural. So, the owners of the Dark Lady are actually Democrats. They thought they were, honoring a victim of a horrific crime, caused by a mentally ill person, right? But I think we're not seeing what the systematic problem here is that, thousands of Americans across our country are being murdered, and our activist judges are letting these people back on the street. So these judges are the ones that are causing all this.
Yep.
And they're being put in by activist politicians, which
Yes.
Smiley is. And then the Providence, it's
City Council. Yes.
Yeah, we are choosing this to happen to ourselves because we are voting them in, and we're voting them in two different ways. Conservative Democrats are voting party lines, right? And then we have Republicans that are refusing to vote. So a non-vote is a Democrat vote. So there we go. We're losing in two different ways. People just need to need to see what's really going on in the world right now and see how this war we're fighting, this culture war, and right now we're losing, and thousands of Americans are losing by giving up their lives. So here we are. So I hope this blows up even bigger, and let's make this a focal point. Let's discuss this, John.
Yes, exactly. And I think, people should realize, to me, this is a voting issue, and I'll tell you why. Number one, you had those No Kings protests over the weekend, and they're all marching around and blah blah blah. Well, first of all, they chose Hillary Clinton, they chose Kamala Harris when Biden stepped down. And as far as this is the mayor. Talk about a No Kings protest. This is the mayor of a city saying you cannot put that up. There's nothing obscene about the mural. Who is he, the mayor, Democrat of the city? Who is he to decide what a private business owner is going to display on private property? Like when they talk about No Kings, Vic, that is the definition of someone ruling like a king.
Well, absolutely. Then at the same time, there's George Floyd murals all over the place. So, those are good. These are bad. So I agree with you 100%. We have to have this discussion for what it really is.
Yes. And let's just talk about this just for another moment, Vic. And that is, what if, and it sounds like, what if the business owner said, I really like the job that President Trump is doing, and I want to have a mural of him? Or what if someone said, I want to have a mural of the Pope? Or what if, I want to have a mural of Ronald Reagan? This business, what you're up against, Vic Mellor, is the Democrat Party basically deciding, if you're a private business, no, we're going to decide what's appropriate and what can go on the side of your building.
Yeah, No Kings, classic. What else do you have to say? No Kings.
Yes.
And but Rhode Islanders just have come to expect it, and they accept it. Why do we keep accepting this and just bitch and complain about it? You got to get out and you got to vote.
Now, Vic, also, TMZ picked up on the fact that Congressman Magaziner, now you have government still closed, by the way, and he is not only planning on hosting while the government is closed, and thank God that the president and others stepped in to try to pay these TSA agents. But while the government is closed, instead of being in Washington doing his job, TMZ picked up on the fact that Rhode Island Congressman Seth Magaziner, not only is he not in Washington, he's going to be in Rhode Island, and he can't hold a viewing party near his home because he doesn't live in the district. He's planning on holding a viewing party for the Real Housewives. What is your thought on that?
But he's just stumbling one step after the next. Because in the past, he hasn't had any real serious competition. And now it's just being exposed for everything that it is. And it's happening across the whole state. So it's not just me running. There is momentum, and there's a movement going on right now to replace all these Democrats. There just is. And it's the socialist aspect of it, and it's real. People are starting to see that it is real, and we have to do it now. President Trump is just highlighting it, and he just does, right? So you can't help not see what he does, but at the same time, it's working.
Vic, right now you're gaining a lot of attention and a lot of momentum. I also like the fact, boy, it's refreshing. You're not afraid to call out and champion ICE with some of the people that they're getting. And I saw that you posted, ICE arrested a very dangerous individual, I think, from Cranston. And where that's refreshing is no one in our Washington delegation and no state elected leader, as far as statewide or congressional, they never mention it. Boy, you're not bashful about saying great job by ICE to remove that person.
Well, absolutely not. Listen, the Latino community are the ones that are punished the most by these criminals. That's where they're living. They're living in the Latino communities, and they're paying the price. They want those criminals out just as bad as the rest of us do. And I spend a lot of time there, and I'm listening, and I'm going to call it out for what it is. Americans want to be safe. I mean, if you're not safe, what good is everything else?
That's
Nothing.
right.
Nothing else is important.
Yep. And, also just not in the district you're running in 2nd District, but you had that horrible homicide of that woman at the salon in Central Falls. The person they arrested, this guy, he's like 66, long time. He started a gang in Connecticut. So think of that. He's in Connecticut. He wants to leave the state. He could go to New York. He could go to New Jersey. Where does he go? He goes to Rhode Island. And from what I've been told by police, one of the reasons was he said, he wanted to be in an atmosphere of lawlessness. And that is something that to me, Vic, is the failure of people like Seth Magaziner, Governor McKee. They create, being a sanctuary state, you create an aura of lawlessness. And look who it attracts, this lifelong criminal from Connecticut to come into Rhode Island and then murdered that poor woman in Central Falls.
Well, and I guarantee you, he's not the only one. There's
Right.
probably thousands of them. And not
That's
only
right.
do they get to live in their lifestyle of lawlessness, they get
Yep.
paid while they're here. The
That's
state
right.
will pay them while they're here. I mean,
That's
it's
right.
so stupid. These people
Yes.
are stupid that let this happen, John. And I'm
Yep.
going to say it. It's just we're being led by stupid people.
I want to hear about the latest in the campaign. I know you have a rally coming, but I also, and not to put you on the spot, but President Trump sitting in at the Supreme Court, birthright citizenship. This is something we don't hear any of our political leaders talk about, and that is that there are people that they take advantage of this birthright citizenship. In Russia, they would send pregnant women to
Yeah,
Miami,
it's a
and then
business.
it's a business, American
Yeah,
citizen. I can tell you at Rhode Island, at Women and Infants, women show up, they fly in from
yeah.
Guatemala, some of these countries. They, arrive at Women and Infants, they deliver a child. The child is now considered an American citizen. Everything is free. They're then put on, we have to pay for them. The whole family comes over. Where does Vic Miller, do you stand with the president on reining in this notion of birthright citizenship?
Well, I back the president 100% on this. Listen, myself and just the hundreds of millions of Americans, we're tired of subsidizing the world and
Yep.
we're being taken advantage of. And what do we have? We're losing everything, John. We barely live in here, and yet the rest of the world is just taking advantage of us. It has to stop. And
Yes.
and this is the time right now. It stops now.
Now, finally, you do have more rallies coming. I want to turn it over to you. What do you want to give us the latest on the campaign?
Well, we have Roger Stone coming in on May 3rd. Okay.
Yep.
Um, we have other great Rhode Island speakers. It's going to be at the Park Theater, May 3rd
Great.
in Cranston. Okay.
Good.
And it's going to be another great night. It's going to be another sold out. So, go to vicmeller.com. When I first started my whole listening tour for the campaign, they're like, hey, Republicans don't do rallies. Republicans don't do rallies. Yes, we do. Yes, we
Mm.
do. You just got to hit them in the core and motivate them and get to that grassroots, which is what we're doing. And they're hating it. They're hating life, John. So vicmeller.com, get your tickets. And there'll be a lot more coming out on it. We've got plenty of great speakers. Thanks, sir.
You're making a lot of noise. You're getting a
Oh,
lot of
well,
people
there's
talking.
more noise to come. I promise you.
Vic, great to talk to you, and good luck on the campaign trail. And we'll talk to you again.
All right. Thanks, John. You have a
All
good one,
right,
sir.
folks. There it is again. Vic Miller, right here on the John DePietro show. And let me go to. Nope. Hold on. I haven't done this in a little while, and I need to hold on, bear with me. Oh, there we go. And I need to, okay, there we go. I have been spending so much time. All right, folks, now I do want to talk about the mural, and we're going to talk about Nancy and the latest with Nancy. I do want to remind you, though, because someone sent me an email and was asking, who is it that I recommended regarding fencing? And when I was out in Tucson, and I would tell people about, at the very least, you could have a gate at your driveway. And I also want to clarify, I'm not criticizing the Guthrie family. I'm not criticizing, I'm not Savannah. I'm not criticizing Cameron. I'm not criticizing Annie. Obviously, you feel terrible about what happened with their mom. I'm just suggesting to you, and I'm sharing my observations, that whether you live in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, or anywhere, when I was in the Catalina foothills, okay, granted, that type, I didn't see a lot of people with, there were some people that had fences. It was more like stone walls. I didn't see really like a picket fence, but I did see people that had a gate on their driveway. And I was just suggesting, if you really wanted to be secure, right? If we could go back in time, if Nancy Guthrie, 84-year-old woman living alone in the Catalina foothills, if she had a gate on her driveway, they wouldn't be able to get a car in that circular driveway. Obviously, lights certainly can be a deterrent. Alarm system would have been a nice deterrent. More cameras around the property would have been a nice deterrent. But just for your home or business, if you're a homeowner, business owner, I was just seeing that story of a guy had a dog stolen off his property. You hear about that. If you have a child or a pet, Why not call Mike Rizzo? And they're going to be at the Rhode Island Home Show coming up, by the way, at Capitol Fence, 401 618 4407. They're based right in Cranston, fence or gate, and it's Capitol Fence, 401 618 4407. Rhode Island right now, Rhode Island and Massachusetts, you got to understand, this is like the mayor in Jaws ringing the dinner bell. They're just this lawlessness, that lifelong criminal in Connecticut. He started his own street gang in Connecticut. But what did he do? He moved to Rhode Island. Folks, Governor McKee is not going to protect you. Sheldon Whitehouse is not going to protect you. Seth Magaziner, Gabe Amo, they're not going to protect you. At the very least, put up a fence and a gate around your property or business. Capitol Fence, residential or commercial, highest quality, free estimate, and they're licensed and insured. Call Mike Rizzo, 401 618 4407, 401 618 4407 for Capitol Fence. Now, we will talk about Nancy Guthrie, but I do want to talk about the mural. And I want to touch on okay, hold on one moment. And let me get rid of that. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay. Let me go to about the mural.
What about the black women in America that are dying every day on the streets? Where are the murals for everybody that died for Black Lives Matter? You can support a white woman in America. What about the black women in America that are dying every day on the streets? Where are the murals for everybody that died for Black Lives Matter?
Ultimately, we want to make sure that every community member that calls Providence home feels safe. And we can both agree that this mural behind us does not reflect Providence's values.
You know, that is, again, that was a Black Lives Matter organizer that NBC 10 spoke to. And I thought they, provided that individual with like no pushback at all. But I do want to touch on, nope, that's not what I want. Here we go. There we and there we go. Nope, there we go. I want to be very clear. There's nothing offensive about this. This is a failure that these individuals and claiming that somehow this makes people feel unsafe. That this mural of this Ukrainian refugee makes people feel unsafe. I want to, again, everyone can handle it however they want. I do have a thought about it. I do have a concept about it. I know the person that did the mural, he's even now saying he may take it to Boston. I understand a couple things. Number one, there is a petition going. I'm not going to support it because the owners in the building, they do not want the owners in the building, they no longer want to have that mural on their building. They don't want it in any way. So as far as that is like, if they were saying we own this building and we want to take on City Hall and we really want to, we need help and blah blah blah, and we're willing to go to court, but that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening. They're now apologizing, saying we had no idea that it was going to cause this type of uproar, and we no longer want it. The only one that still wants to keep that mural up right now, the only one that wants to keep that up is the person painting it and the general public. But I do have a concept on it. I'm going to try to, this the person that did the mural, I don't know how much these people that are trying to push, phone lines and calling, and I'm telling you right now, the Mayor Smiley is not going to change his mind, because, and even, this petition and this other stuff, it's all the phone calls are going to be coming from outside of the city. The mayor is in a primary that he's going to have to deal with, that David Morales, in September. I like to try to get things done, and I mean like realistically get stuff done. And I think I do have a concept of how we could make this happen, but it's not going to be by, if you for people that say like, let's just call City Hall, he's not gonna change his mind on that. And as I said, even you got to understand the dynamics of this, and I don't think some people do. If hold on, I'm communicating with him. Let's see. Let me hold on, everybody. Bear with me. I am communicating with this Ian. So I do want to, let's see if we can make this happen while we are live right now. Otherwise, I could always, this could become a conversation later. I am aware that we are, he doesn't seem, that, like, he put on X, DM me if you have like some thoughts and ideas. So, but at the same token, he doesn't realize that his profile, you can't send him a direct message. And I'm not knocking him. He just seems like someone who maybe doesn't use social media a lot, or doesn't use these apps a lot. So he's sending, hey, send me a direct message. And on his profile, you can't send him a direct message. So I do have a concept on it. This isn't an easy fix, but I'll tell you what, again, my opinion, what's not going to solve this is you can bombard City Hall with phone calls. The Mayor Smiley is not changing his mind. He's not going to reverse it now. He has a primary. And even if he did, the Providence City Council, they would go to war with him, and he is not looking to go to war with them while he's trying to win re-election here. But he has to get through that primary. So this business of, and I'm not like trying to be negative. I'm trying to come up with, you need something. I believe there is a solution here, but a petition is not the solution. And just calling City Hall and people from all over the country, that's not going to change anything. I did see that he put the wall needs to be 45 feet tall and 37 feet wide. Now, the fact of the matter is there's not a lot of buildings that could hold something like that, especially when you get into the suburbs. I also want to remind people that you want people to see it. It's not a matter of, hold on. I am communicating with right now. I sent him an email and I reached out to him on X, but again, I don't know, what his work schedule is or if he's been down there. So we'll see if we can chat with him. But so for people to say, well, then what's your thought on it? My thought would be not just to, like I said, I'd like to try to do something, even if you had 50,000 people sign a petition. The mayor of Providence is not changing his mind on this. He's not. And if you're another business owner, someone might say, I'm just going to throw this out there, like Joe Paolino. Joe Paolino has to do business in the city of Providence. If you're in Providence right now, if some business owner tries to put that mural up, they're going to be dealing with protests. And it's difficult enough trying to do business in the city of Providence. I'm not convinced, no matter where, if a business owner tried to do this and put it up, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it would have to be like very high, like the owner of the Superman building, or Providence does have these different murals up. A lot of other cities don't. So is it possible a business owner would have to say, I know it's going to be considered controversial, and I'm willing to deal with the controversy of it. But otherwise, they're not going to go along with that. So you want it out there. You want people to be able to see it. I completely agree. It's not to me a matter of you hate to it's not a matter of caving, but like I just saw, and I'm not going to get into, but like a local elected Republican is just telling people to call a number. Okay, so you're going to do that, but for what? So now you're just going to annoy people, whoever the person is that has to answer the phone at Providence City Hall, and they're going to have to take all these phone calls, and it's going to be people from all over the country. And I agree, take a minute, protect the First Amendment. But the fact of the matter is, the person that owns the building no longer wants to do it. So I just, and I saw people were trying to promote, they thought they had someone. I think I have a better solution. We'll see if we can talk with the individual that did the mural, and then probably work it off air. But I think the larger point here is the danger here, the absurdity that if you own a business, like I said, of course it doesn't make sense. But look at the things that they do in Providence. They're against their own police force. They're against ICE. The things that they cave to and cater to, of course it's totally wrong. Yes, no doubt it's totally wrong. It is. It's private property. What if someone said, I want to have a mural of the Pope? Or if they said, I want to have a mural of the President of the United States. I voted for the president. I want to put his picture up. These people are basically saying you can't do that. And they don't even realize Channel 12, by the way, they were late to the story, but they did jump on the story. But Channel 10 has been dominating. It has also taken over. I think the person that did the mural, I think he'd run into this in Boston as well. Remember, you're a business owner. A lot of businesses don't want controversy. Maybe you have someone that says, I'll have it, but again, they just don't have a tall building. There are some people that would say, yeah, I'd like to have it, but what's the point? Again, the measurements that you need for that, look how high that is off the ground. That is several stories tall building. But it really is the fact that a mayor can step in and put pressure on the business owner. And that's exactly what happened. And as I mentioned, if it wasn't the mayor, that's why, if it wasn't Mayor Smiley, even if the mayor said not a problem, the city council would go after the business owner, and the city council of Providence would put pressure on him. There's a lot to be taken from this. And as soon as what they're basically saying is, in like Black Lives Matter, and that the guy running for mayor, David Morales, saying, if you're a white woman, you can never be a victim. And that spokesperson for Black Lives Matter, they have no interest in this. If this did go up, okay, it would be vandalized. 100% it would be vandalized. But I think there is a solution here, and I think it's a better solution than what they have. We'll see if that if I can communicate with the individual that put it up, and I understand he wants his artwork there. But he is maybe inundated of people trying to reach out to him. But I'm just going to say, I'm not going to, this business of like call Providence City Hall and just bombard them with phone calls. He's not, they're not changing. I think, to me, that's a wasted exercise. This business of a petition. Who are you petitioning? The business owner no longer wants it. The business owner who runs the Dark Lady, they have to do business in the city of Providence. They don't want, I don't know what their clientele is, politics, but they don't want this. They don't want to have people frequent their place or suddenly not going there or boycotting them. So they are Democrats. Of course, it's ridiculous. Of course, that portrait should be able to go up in the mural, but you're not dealing with rational people. You're dealing with people who, they march about no kings, yet their mayor acts like a king. And it is, a violation of the First Amendment. And now this could be, I think it is. I think this is the individual, and it is. Let me just move his beautiful mural. There he is, and it's Ian, and he's actually hello there, Ian, and he's joining us right outside of the mural, which
I'm not at the mural, but I'll break some news to you.
All right.
We're scouting new locations currently,
Okay.
and I'm at the location of the potential new site for the mural.
Okay, well, that's good news. Now, this would be, is this in Providence or outside of Providence?
This is Providence.
It is in Providence. Okay.
It is.
And so do you have a business owner who'd be willing to maybe put it on their building?
That is exactly what I have, precisely. Just a maybe.
Okay. And what would it take for, and not to blow at the lid or who it is, but what would it take for this person? Like, are they 50-50? Are they like, I'm all in? Or what would it take for them to sign off on this?
Negotiations are just in their infancy. I
Okay.
literally just got an introduction to somebody who's very interested. However,
Yep.
it's not their sole decision.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, and you have also mentioned the what needs to be involved here, Ian. This is not a small undertaking. You need a large space for this.
Yeah, we need 42 feet tall minimum.
Yep.
I mean, that would be bare minimum. That would be no ground clearance.
Yep.
Ideally, we would need like 55 feet, really, because you don't really want to put this on the ground because it's definitely graffiti risk.
Yes.
So we would like it to be minimum 10 feet off the ground. So really, we're looking at like 55 feet tall and 38 feet wide.
38 feet wide. Can I ask you, how difficult would it be for you to remove the mural that you have now, which is fantastic on Snow Street, and bring it, like, is this a week project? Would this be a month?
This is a one day operation.
1 day? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And it's very easy for me because I just make a phone call and then I just spend a lot of money. So
Well,
just to give you an idea, it cost me $4,000 to get that mural installed.
wow. And how long did that, because it's still not completed yet, but how long did that take you to do the mural, which is beautiful, by the way? You're very talented.
Thank you. So what you're seeing is a digital painting, and then it's printed and then installed. So all I'm really painting is Irina herself. And that
Okay.
was done for expediency because we didn't have a lot of time to finish the project. So so that's the way we chose to do it.
Do you?
So all in all, in total, it's been like a 2-month long process. I started in January.
Wow.
Towards
Okay.
the end of January, and then getting it designed, finding the building, all that process took 2 months.
Wow. And when did you first hear? Because you were near completion on it. When did you first hear that this was potentially a problem?
I only got 3 days of painting in
Huh.
on the actual
Wow.
physical wall. So we installed, and then I got to work pretty much the next day, I believe. Yeah. I forget exactly how things went down, and my life is like completely upside down at the moment. So like,
Sure.
I got a lot going on. It's hard to remember everything.
And right now, you feel better than you did earlier that this could end up staying in Providence, because I know I saw you put, or maybe Boston could be an option.
Right. We're going to try like heck. And, their goal is to get murals in every major city. So A lot of the cities have been checked off. However, New York City, for example, already has 2 or 3 murals, but Boston is not on the list yet. So Boston is a candidate, and we're
Okay.
eyeing a few buildings up there. But obviously, we want to keep it in Providence,
Yes.
just because this is where I am,
Yes.
and we want to fight this fight.
Good. And if the new location people, if they sign off, this could move very quickly.
Yeah, it would have to, because
Okay.
ideally we would do the switcheroo in one day. So
Good.
we'd take it off and put it up in one day.
Yep. Now, are you open to, does it have to be on a building? Because someone shared with me, someone of means, and asked if you would be open to, for instance, could it be on a billboard on the highway, or does this have to be on a building?
There aren't many billboards I know of that are 40 feet tall. So
Right.
if there was, I'd be amenable to that. But
Okay.
I don't know of any that exist. Usually billboards are like 20, maybe 30 feet tall.
Sure. But let's just say this lands and something is worked out with the new owner. Would you be open to, hey, in addition to that, yeah, I would love to construct 2 or 3 that then could be on billboards on the highway?
Absolutely. Yeah. All options are on the table, and the project is also open to other murals in Providence as well.
Great. Okay. Well, Ian, first of all, fantastic work on the mural.
Thank you.
I mean, in your mind, how was it like coming along? You must have been excited, like, wow, this is really going to pop.
I was having so much fun. I mean,
Yeah.
everything looked how I wanted it to look going into it. And then once I started painting, I mean, I was having a blast up there. I had just finally hit a stride where I got all of my systems the way I wanted it. And because, once you're up there, you're swaying in the wind, and, you're dealing with the wind blowing your spray paint everywhere you don't want it to go. And it's getting on the work you just finished. And, now you've got to redo that. And so it's a lot, and you have to have everything dialed in. You can't be guessing anything up there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can imagine, and it's so high profile. One last question, and first of all, congratulations on this. You feel this is something you may know in the next 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours? How long? It sounds like you have a tentative agreement, but somebody else has to sign off.
Yeah, it's a little looser than that even. I mean, it's I put it this way, I don't want to jinx it. It's so good.
Exactly.
But it could be everything I want it to be. It's a dream candidate wall, but the person I talked to is very interested. It's just he's not the only deciding factor. So
sure.
I don't know, and he doesn't know what those other variables are going to say.
Okay, and they would not be frightened off by that there could be controversy backlash. They know what they're walking into.
I know what the person I talked to is thinking, but we don't know what the other people are thinking yet, because they haven't. Sure. The person I talked to, it was just a chance happening, really, because I just kind of stormed his building and happened to meet somebody who owned the property, or partially owns the property. Good. And so it's sort of miraculous. And he was very, he knew, my first question was, do you know who Irina Zarutska is? And he was very well versed on the situation. Yep. And he was well aware of the controversy I'm dealing with, because my next statement was, I'm Ian Goodro. And, so then he knew everything about that. So, but like I said, we don't know about the other parties.
Not to jinx it, and I'm going to let you go. Is the new potential spot maybe even a better spot than where it was going to be on Snow Street?
It's better in regard that it's not on a gay club. And like I said before, I didn't know that, no one anticipated, me and Randy, who is in the gay community, were unaware of how much the gay community disliked Elon Musk. And even though he's just one of many donors, right? He's only one voice. Yes, he put in a lot of money, but he's just one voice. And no one was aware of how much it would upset those you know, the people in that community.
Yeah. And on top of that, Ian, I mean, look at that. It's so beautiful and the way it was coming along. And it
Yeah,
really
that
just would have popped. Like,
that
I'll just
3D
tell you, you were
3D effect
adding
is
a
doing it.
lot.
Yeah.
That was so,
Thank you.
and the design you came up with, I mean, what a beautiful way for her to be remembered. And
Yeah.
I just find it's so, there's nothing offensive about it. It would be, there should be more murals of victims like this. And it does draw awareness, and it draws awareness in a different way. And it's just everything about it is positive. And the fact that these people are suddenly saying it's decisive, it's complete insanity. So
Yeah.
it's not as though, and before I let you go, it's not as though it is something, you know, vulgar or something inappropriate. When I lived in New York City, the Brooklyn Museum of Art, you know, I even lived in New York when they used to have the elephant dung on the, you know, the Virgin Mary and various things about Christ. I mean, this is beautiful. This is really tasteful. It's unique. It's also, it's so different. Like it's your fingerprint, it's your thumbprint, this is your creation, it's everything. To me, this exemplifies what the creative capital should be, and that is remembering someone who was, you know, who fought tremendous odds to come to this country. And then that look of horror of her in the train, but you're remembering her. She looks like she's in heaven, Ian, the way that you have, you know, positioned her like that.
Yeah, there's
So
definitely an angelic sense of light. And John, I really appreciate you saying all those things, because, you know, dealing with the backlash has been pretty awful. And, you know, it's nice to hear somebody that, you know, really appreciates the work and what's going into it. And the symbolism is completely getting ignored. I mean,
yes,
you know, people are saying things like, you know, it's this and it's that. Well, you know what it also is just all this vitriol is strangling the memory of Irina, and that's what the blue shapes symbolize in this painting. You know, where they're just sort of choking her, and that's you know, that's what we need to do is bring our humanity to the forefront.
100%. And I don't frankly understand this business of that it was making people less safe or divisive. This is not divisive. It's just the opposite. It would bring people together. It would, you know, in a city after a rough winter that could use some cheering up, this is actually just a tremendous, beautiful piece of art. So let's do this. I'm going to let you go. It is so great. I'm glad we connected in this manner. I'm going to follow up with you. Fingers crossed. Let's not jinx it. But one last question. The new spot, could it be somewhat vandalism proof, because at least it would be high enough?
It looks like we could do it high enough. Yeah, that's why I like it.
Great.
Yeah,
I love it. Ian, tremendous. So we'll talk later as soon as you get word, and I can't wait. And the unveiling, hey, it's national news. People are talking about this, even international. And what I also, one last thing that I don't think people really understand is this is so offensive to like Ukrainian refugees, that somehow an image of them coming here, that would be like, what? Like she was you could just tell she had a peaceful persona about her. And I have two young daughters that take public transit in Washington, D.C. and New York City. This is anyone that could be a victim of crime in that way. And this is preserving her in such a beautiful fashion. You're very talented. You channeled the right energy on this. And let's keep our fingers crossed.
I think it's offensive that it's offensive, you know, or that people are calling it offensive. I mean, what are we even talking about here?
Yeah.
So,
what if I own a business and I want to hire you to do a mural of the Pope? Is that offensive or like, what are we talking about? Totally weak. Ian, great job. I'm going to follow up with you. Okay.
All
right, folks. There he is. Excellent job, Ian. All right. So this could be great. This could be great. That it sure sounds as though he may have a new location. Boy, that really worked out tremendous. Yes, thank you, Susan. And just again, folks, this should not be about politics. And by the way, we have a lot of new people. 4 years ago, I traveled to Poland And I actually went to Ukraine and I was interviewing people like Arena who were, whose lives were devastated, whose businesses were bombed out, whose homes were bombed out, and trying to start a new life. And what she went through and the horror. I mean, it's so misguided. And as I've mentioned, you can't it's one thing for someone misguided to say things of, I'm offended by that. But you would expect an elected official like Mayor Smiley to step up and say, that is ridiculous. There's nothing offensive about it. It's going to be there. And like, you people have this all wrong. You don't cave to that crowd. You don't cave to that crowd. To me, you educate that crowd. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by Watson Materials. Call Sean today, the most complete selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island, 401-885-0600, 401-885-0600. The most complete selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island is Watson Materials. Landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone. Watson Materials, 401-885-0600, 401-885-0600 for Watson Materials. I also want to remind you about Kids Club on the Pike. That's right. What do? Kids Club on the Pike. They have daycare. They offer preschool. They also offer before and after school programs. They have several locations. It is true their main location is located right off of 295 on the Cranston-Johnson line, but they have several locations in Rhode Island. You can call Kristen 401-443-5336 with April vacation coming up. Maybe you want to put your kids in there for the week at Kids Club on the Pike, 401-443-5336. So I think, yes, I'm well aware of that. I don't know why anyone would be lost. You have people, I'll tell you what you have. You have people that when they saw this mural, Black Lives Matter, they were basically saying that if you are Caucasian, that you can't be a victim. That's what that is. That's what they were saying. And they were saying, and I'll play their words, that they were basically saying in Providence, Rhode Island, there should be no mural of a white woman because a white woman can't be a victim. And if there's any victims, it should be either illegals that come in or people of color. And that is, it's not your imagination, it's reversed racism. The building that is on right now, that's a private building. It's private property. It's being paid for with private money. It's not city property. It's not city money. It's not state money. And the mayor of Providence leaned in and said, I'd like that removed. Total overstep. But the owners of the building didn't want to challenge him. So now you have an opportunity, according to Ian, that it sounds like he's got another site in downtown Providence, which would be fantastic. But it's not your imagination. Of course it's wrong. Of course that makes no sense. And, the whole notion that someone would say that, you're making people uncomfortable.
Died for Black Lives Matter. You can support a white woman in America. What about the black women in America that are dying every day on the streets? Where are the murals for everybody that died for Black Lives Matter? You can support a white woman in America. What about the black women in America that are dying every day on the streets? Where are the...
Whoa.
Ultimately, we want to make sure that every community member that calls Providence home feels safe. And we can both agree that.
So by having that beautiful mural up, you're making people feel unsafe.
This mural behind us does not reflect Providence's values, nor does it reflect the creativity that we want.
I would disagree with that. Again, that is David Morales. He is running. He would like to be the mayor of Providence. Doesn't values, that's interesting. It doesn't reflect our values. What values would that be? That every life doesn't matter? These people do not value life. These people, to say something like that to me is absolutely ridiculous. You know, it's about our what values. What values? She was a victim of crime. You know, it actually, to have her up would say a lot about the values, and it would say a lot about a society that honors people that are victims, that would honor victims. So that's what that would say, and that we recognize that people should feel safe. It's actually the opposite of what they're saying. As far as that other individual saying, you know, a white person can't be a victim. Well, she was a victim. She was a brutal victim. Nancy Guthrie seemingly is a victim. Maya Brophy Behrman, I talked about that. She was it wasn't anyone's imagination. Her life was not, they didn't feel the same about it because of the color of her skin. And what they're basically trying to say is, you know, that she wasn't a victim. As David Morales said, her white privilege, maybe that intimidated him. Maybe that made him feel uncomfortable and he jumped into action. You know, you had that last week in Chicago where a young woman was killed by an illegal. And then one of the city councilors in Chicago said, you know, it's just young people out doing their thing. And maybe she scared him. And that's why he took her life, you know, as if it was her fault. That's what they really are saying. That, you know, is it possible that she frightened him? And that's why he then ended her life, because he frightened her in a manner. Or as Black Lives Matter said, her white privilege made him feel less than who he was. And that's why he took her life. In other words, it's actually her to blame. That's what their message is. Well, this is very good news if Ian could pull it off. If not, I did have someone that was standing in the wings that said, if you think it's important enough, we'll do billboards. Because I thought, why not have them all around the state? Why just confine it to Providence, where a lot of people don't even go anymore, as a matter of fact? Folks, this portion of our program, remember, if you have a fire, you may have, first of all, if you have a fire, you're going to have a flood. You're also going to have smoke damage. That's why if you have a fire, you're going to need Serve Pro of Providence at 401-941-5500. 401-941-5500. Serve Pro of Providence. They're fast, they're thorough, they're professional. You can depend on Serve Pro of Providence. 401-941-5500. So if you have a fire, Serve Pro Providence, they're available 24/7. They're going to douse the fire with water. Then you're going to have water damage. Then you're going to have smoke damage. And then because of all the water, you may have mold. Serve Pro of Providence. Call them, available 24/7, 401-941-5500 for Serve Pro of Providence. Number one, it was great to talk to Ian, who did the mural. Number two, sure sounds like that he has some potentially good news, that someone else in the city of Providence is willing to stand up. Now, as far as Nancy Guthrie, I am tentatively right now looking at being live on TikTok later this afternoon to talk about the case. Like everybody else, I have some withdrawal. I was out there 7.5 weeks. It's not easy to just like, okay, now I'm back and walk away from it. So that's tentatively, I think I'm going to be live on TikTok. And my plan is each weekday, we are live 1 to 2, but I think I'm going to start to do Nancy Guthrie coverage each weekday, probably 12:30 to 1. I think the biggest news is, and I'll give him credit, Brian Enton of News Nation. He seems to, he's got a really good report. He's in the back of the house, and you can get a better shot of the doors. And he talked with someone who I thought was very knowledgeable, that certainly seems to feel that that someone could have entered the house prior to Nancy getting home, and that they still believe that they took her out the front, and it's pretty good. But his other news is inside the home of Nancy Guthrie apparently was immaculate, which I admit it does make many of the comments by the sheriff confusing, because the sheriff basically said that once they went inside the house and looked at the crime scene, they immediately had the FBI on the ground that night, which seemed very odd. And if that is the case, why did he put it out as a missing person? I don't know. The many things the sheriff has said, I don't understand. Folks, if you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the top of the hour news. Now, everyone else, that is a working plan that I'm planning on being back. Maybe we'll do Facebook, YouTube later. Especially developments of the case. This is a much needed break. I missed family. I was out there. I'll tell you that desert sun is a melting sun. But I do miss being out in front of the house and talking with everyone. And as many of you know, I mean, a lot of people left. I remained out there. I want to kind of see where the case leads. The sheriff's also facing some problems, but it is day 60. And I also want to see what happens next week with the return of Savannah. So, but as of right now, I think we're going to do a TikTok live later. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for following the page. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you share on Facebook. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy this day 60.